Hi, I want to make an analysis of the Stop Video Games campaign of Scott Ross from a Curse Farm. So first of all, I like the guy a lot. Spoiler alert, I signed for the petition because I want clearer laws, just to be very clear. But I personally see a lot of disagreements from the law versus how you apply it in practice. But on the other hand, just to have clearer laws, I think it is good. And I know that they can create a mess. I'm thinking about GDPR. But it's better to have the laws than not to have them. And in general, if that's the stance, please go and sign the petition. I'll put a link into the description. But on the other hand, I'll want to say some things which I see them a bit problematic. And even in the Ross analogies, they don't work. So he was saying the example, look, when you sign this, maybe it will apply to other things like your car. And your car, after some time, is not working because some web service is not working. And I would say this analogy is very unlucky. I don't know how to say it. But the main reason is simply that cars typically don't work if there is no support for them. They'll become not safe to go on the road. And as much as there are no pieces or experts to fix them, it's better not to mess with them and to get them out of the roads before they make an accident. But to be fair and to put a stronger view, what he means is that imagine your car, let's name it Mesla, has a web component, web server, web service that gives you updates. It gives you new maps, new ways to drive. It has an AI driving utility. And this one, for example, they shut it down. So your car will not even start because you turn the key. And this is a bit hard to say, but it may happen for regulatory reasons that in fact you may want to shut down to not let the car start. Again, it depends on the laws of the state and the like. But again, I think this was never tested in the court because let's assume these Tesla cars right now, we can imagine they're driving perfectly or almost perfectly, like an automatic pilot on planes. But right now we are not in this technology level. But assuming we would have, let's imagine we have this first generation of Teslas, which have these models which will get, and they can recognize the rules of a specific country with priorities, with climate, whatever. They work best in between these hours and these hours. And after 3 years, the company comes with a new model of the car, but also a new AI trained data set. But this AI data set will not fit, for whatever reason, on the previous generation model. It doesn't have enough memory or SD card to store it. It doesn't have enough video RAM to do some processing on it. Anything. It doesn't have a specific instruction that is necessary for the new model to work. So the company will say, hey, we will not be able to support the old version fully, but we want to sell this new version of the car. And we can talk about this planned obsolescence and so on, but there could be good technical reasons not to be able to do this migration. Again, I'm not saying you should agree with the practice, but there are technical reasons sometimes to not be able to do it. And given that, they will say, hey, we will never upgrade the old model, so it's basically dead. But later, after 3 years more, we will notice that the model of the first generation cars, because it's not updated, is not updated with the new laws. Like you can't do it. So what should this car company do it? Should give the servers on the first generation models to take them out, dedust them and see how to make the first generation cars to work? Should they give them to community? What should they do with the train data? Should it pass borders or things like that? Should they go out of European Union if the data was trained in European Union? Should it go maybe to China? So even in these cases are cases, but again, maybe the games are less dangerous. So, but I want to say that it's not as simple as, hey, I will give you the data or the AI or the servers, and right now you can do it. And this is true also for games. Like quite often the game engines, there are iterations of the previous ones, but they add one fancy stuff that is not convertible back. You can't take a map from Quake 3, for example, and put it back in Quake 2. You can make a simplified version, obviously, of Quake 2 that looks kind of Quake 3-ish, but it's definitely not the same map. And the same, you can't take a map from the source engine and put it back into Half-Life Gold engine. And okay, this is the engines, but why is related with the servers? So what I can say that depending on the game and on the service, there could be cases when the technologies depend quite deeply, but not in an obvious way. So one part which is quite often hard to do are things like networking or parts like that. And I will say again, this is disclaimer and just to say an interest, I know that even in my company we have a service that will make many machines to look like are on the same network. And what it means is that when you play, let's say, a game like Counter-Strike Go, people will look like they're on the same network. So even though there is some latency and other issues like it, you can still play games, and it will look like something is not right, because when they shut down the service, all your Counter-Strike is not working anymore. Maybe with bots, but that developer didn't add bots, let's say so. What it would mean to give you? Should it give to you the server? Okay, so let's say that company gave to you the server, but it says this technology of people looking the same camera, which relies the game to work, we can't do it. We can make a simple replacement, but it will force you to make the game in the same network. But for whatever reason, this one will not work if you use another service. Let's say like, I will use Hamachi, if you know what that service is, because it has some quirks in Hamachi with how we send the UDP packages, how we sign them or whatever, how we count them. Would you consider this game not killed because you have to play your Counter-Strike games in the same room? I would probably say no, but some people will say yes. So this is, to me, the biggest elephant in the room in general, is that this is a quite trivial part in a service game, to have the networking done right. But in general, it's not as simple as that. The other part is that imagine you have a service like Battle.net or Conflux. It was in the Heroes and Might and Magic games, and this service was shut down eventually. So they basically killed the multiplayer component, which for some people is quite important, but they give to you extra perks for the single player component. So what it will be in the Ross example, so if he has his game of cars, and he will get, let's say, all the cars. I don't know if he would want all the cars, but it says, hey, it's your last chance. You can get all the cars, they will be all downloaded, but later you can't get any more progress because the progress is on the server. You can't have that progress anymore, because would it be the same game, that Crew game? Maybe yes, maybe no, but some people say it's not a properly solved problem. The other part is that quite often these servers components keep credentials, keys, things like that, and it takes a lot of time to review a security audit, basically, to see that you don't leak keys. Because it doesn't matter if you give a binary to someone, because I heard, give just a server binary. You have to give the server binary. You may have to give some Kubernetes cluster configuration. You may have to give some bootstrapping keys. And these bootstrapping keys have to be different, probably from the keys that your company have, because you'll not want to give to anyone your private keys because are yours, just to be very clear. So this is another issue. Like it is quite expensive, obviously, in some cases more than in another, that supposedly you just give a binary. The other part is that maybe the companies give to you the source code. My company gives a lot of source code, but not too many contribute and understand how to mangle all these components to make the product which we even do. So I can imagine a company making basically the product that we do, but they will never be able to do it because the issue is not the open source. It's just that it takes a long time to make those things work. And there are on top other issues, like right now there is a quite important push ARM to be supported. And I can see and say that I can see a developer or a provider saying, yes, I will make an ARM, and let's say I look on my options and I say Oracle. Again, I will pick, because it's not quite well used, Oracle today. I use Oracle as my infrastructure because it is quite cheap. Oracle want to have a foothold in the server side on the video games, and they are a Java provider. So I want an Oracle, not an Amazon cloud infrastructure. How will you replicate this kind of more niche infrastructure? Again, I'm not saying Oracle is that niche, but this is one part. How will you do when that whatever server side is integrated with analytics? And quite often you do want analytics because you want to know when there are crashes, when there are big latencies, and so on. Should it give to you the binary and the setup into your analytics platform? Should you be, as a third party, allowed to see this analytics? How will you do the login? Should you be allowed to see the emails of the people? When you get a new server, let's say you have this Battle.net, maybe you remember the Battle.net from the Blizzard. Later, I think in 2010, they had around that year the requirement that you should put your real email and user or something like that. Should third parties, when you try to relog in, have some mechanism that can look for your user, real user, and password, because you could be doxed when you have to replay it? Should they patch this logic out? So again, I'm not saying I don't want the games to be killed at death, but I want to say that quite often the service kind of things, they had a lot of legal, moral concerns that quite often when a person or a company makes a game, he or them will try to, or she will try to solve them themselves. I mean, they have to do it before doing the game, or as they do the game, as they show the first beta or so on. And if they don't, they will get a request, hey, address the law part, they will address it. But on the third party, I don't know who will do it. So this law should fix this part of personal information, how you identify it, how you work with third-party middleware, how you make sure that maybe just a binary would work, how it will be handled the analytics part. So is it fair a third party to get analytics? And even given the source code, as I said to you, let's assume there is not a problem of the keys. You give to the people the source code. Is it enough if that thing it doesn't build? Like, because it could not build just because, I will give a hypothetical, the code was compiled with a C++ compiler, which was not standard compliant. Should, like Visual C++, if people don't know it, should the company fix these errors to make sure that code compiles? Or whatever compiler of your choice you think. Or should it give a binary of or a link to a downloadable Visual Studio image and Windows version ISO to build? Because if they give so, should they have a license from Microsoft? And what will you do if the company dies? So just to say, it is lovely to have all this code to run, because I would hope more things to run than not to run. But there are some gray areas which have to be addressed, and it is hard to do it, at least technically, without making sure that you don't break too many laws and breaking other rights. So for the sake of saving the one game, let's say a Diablo 3 like game, you will not have it at the end leaking the user names, and it will be lately used for doxing or other concerns like bots attacks or whatever. Maybe you can track the IP with your email, which will be really horrible. Okay, thank you for your listening, and take care of you, everyone. Bye bye.